When a tragedy occurs, it's always unpleasant. When it strikes in our younger generation, it's twice as hard to swallow. When it happens to someone who was loved and admired by everyone he ever knew, you simply ask yourself, why? This question arose in the minds of the family and friends of Gregg Nischwitz when he lost his life in a freak accident on September 20th, 1980. He was 19 years old. Playing Major League Baseball was his dream someday, and because of his dedication and love for the game, that dream would have been a reality.
Greg, it's the summer of 1979, and you've just graduated from Northmont High School, and now you have to decide what university you want to attend for the next 4 years. Now, how much influence, if any, did your father have on your decision to play baseball here at Wright State?
Well, Don, even though we lived under the same roof and everything, he tried to do the best job of recruiting me as he could, but he left the decision up to me, and I don't know. First I wanted to go to Arizona and everything. Things didn't work out there, so I decided to go to Wright State, and I'm really glad I did.
Greg, there's a lot of pressure put on freshmen before the season even starts, being new to the program, wanting to prove themselves early with grades and etc. Are you the type of player that usually performs better under pressure?
I'm not so sure I play better under pressure. I seem to try too hard all the time, and my father always tells me I press too hard and press. I got to stop doing that.
I know the feeling, Greg. It was exactly my setback last year as a freshman on this ball club. Greg, you're a pitcher, a first baseman, and you also played some outfield. And when you're not on the mound, what position do you enjoy playing the most?
There's no doubt about that one, Don. I like playing first base. I get to talk to players when they come down there. It's a lot of fun, and really, if I ever get a chance to play professional baseball, I kind of like to play first base rather than pitch maybe sometimes. Maybe later on in my life I'll change my mind about that, but I really like to hit right now.
What about the designated hitter role, Greg? Do you think you could perform well as a DH on this ball club?
I think so. Even though I wouldn't get to play, I think I keep myself into the game fairly well on the bench, and I think being a DH would be all right for me.
How would you feel about having someone hit for you while you're pitching? Do you think you could concentrate better on the mound, not having to worry about coming to the plate?
When I get to bat, being a pitcher, I really like it a lot, but sometimes when there's a lot of pressure out there on me and temperature's real high, I get worn out a lot coming up to bat. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to bat, but to be honest with you, I wish I'd rather hit than not hit.
Greg, there's 3 weeks of practice thus far. We've got 3 weeks to go. Do you think if we played tomorrow you'd be ready to go, or do you need the full 6 weeks of practice to get ready for the season?
I need that full week, Don, to practice. Right now my arm's feeling real good, and I'm not swinging the bat too bad, but it's not near as what it was last year at the end of my season. I really got lots of time, and I'm just going to take my time at it.
Greg, what did you do in the off-season to keep yourself physically prepared for the season?
Well, I've been lifting down at Dr. Donahue's office, the Nautilus program. He lets us ball players come in there, and it's really helped a lot. I've noticed I can see the change in myself already, and I really enjoy doing that. If I miss a day, you just don't feel the same.
Greg, let's turn from baseball for just a second. What's your intended major here at Wright State University, and how are your grades doing so far?
I haven't really decided what I'm going to major on yet, Don, but as far as my grades, I had a 3-point last quarter, and I'm pretty sure I can get it up higher than that this quarter, and I'm doing real well.
Well, Greg, we certainly wish you the best of luck in your grades and your 1980 baseball season, and thank you for being with me here today at 88.5 Sports.
Greg would have been the second Nischwitz to play pro baseball. His father, Ron, was a former major leaguer and is now head baseball coach at Wright State University.
Ron, first of all, we're going to talk about your major league playing days just a little bit. And when I talk with a former major leaguer, I always like to ask him, now think back just a minute, the first major league outing as a pitcher.
Oh, that was against the Yankees, I think, and I got to face the big guys, Maris and Mantle and Bear and those fellows. Matter of fact, I think in my first game I ended up facing Mantle with the bases loaded, 3 balls, no strikes. I remember that quite well.
What was your best season, Ron, in the major leagues?
Oh, I think it was 1962. I led the Tigers in appearances as a relief pitcher. I ended up being a relief pitcher in the majors, which was probably not the best thing for me. I was probably a better starter, but there wasn't any positions as a starter at that time, so I was a reliever.
You know, one thing I always like to talk to pitchers about, and sometimes they like to talk about it, is your hitting. Were you much of a hitter as a...
Oh, I was pretty proud of that. I think I ended up with a 263 batting average lifetime. That's not bad for a pitcher. I remember one time when I was playing for the Tigers, I was batting about 600. They took me out for a pinch hitter, and the fans were booing, figuring that if you got that good average, I'd be a good hitter.
Did you have an idol or a player that you wanted to be like while growing up?
Yeah, that was Warren Spahn. Probably if I would have come along a few years later, it would have been Sandy Koufax, because I consider him probably the best left-hander that's ever come around. But when I was a youngster, Warren Spahn was my idol, and I still think a lot of him. He's a pretty good pitcher.
You know, and a lot of people can still see you play here in the Dayton area during the summertime. That's right?
Oh, they have in the past. I don't know if next year I'll be playing, but I played last summer. Of course, last summer was an especially enjoyable summer in that both my elder sons, we played on the same team together. And matter of fact, I think we pitched about every game our team played.
Did you play any other sports back in high school other than baseball?
Yes, I played basketball and played football. I gave up football about my junior year out of my father's request. He wouldn't sign the authorization to play. I probably was a better football player at that time than I was anything else.
You know, a big part of your program at Wright State, Ron, has a lot to do with running and conditioning. Would you like to talk about that just a moment with us? I know you do quite a bit of running yourself in your spare time.
Yes, I feel as an athlete, it's very important to be in condition to play. And one of the reasons why we do so much running at Wright State is I think it helps prevent injury, number one. And number two, I tell our players many times when we're working out, it gets awfully boring and tiring working hard all the time. But I think it prepares an athlete for when a game gets close and the game is at hand. The athlete that's in the best shape is going to win the ball game, and I think that happens. And on our ball club at Wright State, we don't have great talent when we consider the other teams we play in the Mid-American Conference and Big Ten and so forth. The other teams usually have better talent than we do, but we end up beating them. Last year we was 8-2 in the Mid-American play. They had better teams, but I think our players won a little bit more.
You know, speaking of conditioning, we talk about running, but the Nautilus program is another important aspect of the Wright State baseball program. Yes,
our fall program will end this week. Tomorrow is our last game, and then starting next week, we'll begin 3 full months of 3 days of Nautilus every week, and we've seen some great things happen with that. We've had 2 or 3 ball players that's gone into pro ball, and I think the Nautilus program has helped every one of those get that opportunity.
Ron, for our high school listeners and even some college kids that are listening, might be listening right now, what advice would you give to them as far as if they wanted to pitch or play pro baseball someday?
Well, I think in college, it's just like pro baseball. We're looking for 3 things in an athlete as far as baseball goes: how well they run, how well they throw, and then probably how well they hit the ball. And probably more importantly is the throwing and the hitting. This year, the new players that came on our team, we're keeping 2 or 3 fellows that really aren't real skilled baseball players at this point, but they can run well and they've got a good arm. And one of the first things we do with our players is we teach them how to strengthen their arms. So often, a youngster always wants to protect his arm. He says, I don't want to throw today, I don't want to throw tomorrow, I'm going to be playing the next day. He wants his arm to be well rested all the time. We have found that the more you throw, the stronger your arm gets. It's just like if you were going to go out and run an 8-mile run, you wouldn't expect to go out and run that 8 miles without conditioning yourself to do it. And that's what you have to do with an arm. You have to throw a lot. We do an awfully lot of long-distance throwing. Long distance throwing, and throwing for accuracy at that distance. And pretty soon, all of a sudden, a boy who doesn't have a pretty good arm, he has a pretty good arm, and he can do some things he's never able to do before.
Say I was a prospect coming to Wright State. I wanted to play baseball at Wright State. How would you go about recruiting me? What would you say to me to get me to play at Wright State as opposed to Dayton or another college here?
Well, I think one of the things that we try to do with an athlete is we tell them that they're going to get good coaching at Wright State. We've had a number of pro ball players that come back and help us coach the team, so they get some exposure that way. We have a number of scouts that come to our game. We play a real difficult schedule, and since we are playing a difficult schedule, that means there's a lot of Major League scouts that they're at the games all the time. And shoot, you never know. We never know whether someday there might be a Wright State ball player. There'll be another Mike Schmidt. You know, he wasn't much of a ball player coming out of high school, but he certainly developed at the college level.
Coach, you finish up your fall baseball program tomorrow, something that Wright State runs each year. What did you like about this year's fall team?
We are going to have the best speed that we've ever had. Something that's really pleased me, we've got four black ball players that's going to make our ball club. This is the first year a black player has ever played for Wright State, and I've hoped for this many years previous, but none were ever talented enough to make the team, and it really pleases me that that's going to happen. We've
top freshmen. Do you have any good-looking freshmen this season?
Yes, we'll have. We just made our final cut down of our team, and there's probably 7 freshmen that's going to make our varsity ball club this year. A couple of them are from Cincinnati, which is the first time we've had a number of players out of Cincinnati. So we're starting to get some players outside the area. We have prided ourselves in the past on playing with local ball players. It just so happens this past year there wasn't a whole lot of talent in the Dayton area. Now, that's not always the case. Normally we have real good talent in Dayton, but this past year the talent was kind of low.
Coach, you've had some A-1 players in the past. We talk about the Barry Rollins, the Dave and Kevin Noonans, the Denny Robinson, and one player in particular last year, Dave Lochner. He signed a contract with the Cincinnati Reds, and he's pitching right now for the Billings, Montana club out in Billings, Montana.
Yes, Dave is one of those fellows that just could come along real well. You know, he had some games this summer, Don, where he struck out 2 men an inning, and that's what the pros are looking for, those pitchers that can strike out a lot of guys. Now, he had some arm trouble this year, so his year wasn't completely good. He had a few games where he didn't pitch real well, but I know the Reds have high hopes for him. He throws the ball over 90 miles an hour, and that's what they're looking for.
Ron Nischwitz is our guest here at halftime. The Thunderbolts are on top of the Vikings 3-0, and we'll be back with more at Northmont High School Stadium right after this. Ron Nischwitz, former major leaguer and now head coach at Wright State University, as our guest here at halftime. And Ron, one thing a lot of players don't think about, before they go into the big leagues, they think they're going to play ball, forever. And that's just not so. You're a very successful businessman here in Dayton. You own a major company here in the Dayton area. How important is that to have something to fall back on?
Well, it certainly is. I'd have to say that my playing baseball helped me get started in the business, and now, fortunately, the business is running well. We have good managers in our business, and they're able to make the business go while I can spend my time coaching at Wright State.
That's amazing. You're a father, a husband, a head coach at Wright State University. You own a major business. When do you find time to breathe?
Well, you just have to make time. I'll have to say this. As you know, we've had a tragedy in our family just recently, and I have changed a little bit in my priorities. My family's getting a little bit more of my time than they have in the past.
You talk about that back September 19th, I believe it was, a tragic accident that happened to your son, Gregg Nischwitz, and I just don't think words could adequately or justifiably describe the type of human being that Gregg was, not only on the field, but off the playing field as well.
Well, we certainly saw that at his viewing and funeral. There were thousands of people that have sent their condolences. He was just one fine boy. We'll never understand why he's gone, but there must be a reason for it. He has sure influenced an awful lot of lives in his young life.
In a way, it just doesn't seem fair, but I'm sure if Gregg was here now, he would want to end this not on a sad note, but just like this.
Cantrell quickly out in front of Nischwitz. No balls and 2 strikes. 1 man out. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning. Raiders with a small lead, 20-5. Here's the 0-2 delivery. Lined into right field, a base hit.